continue to move across central Florida throughout the night and into the early morning hours. We have seen a weakening of the storm over the last 24 hours. We also saw it sped up, which means it's hitting the Gulf Coast prior to high tide, which we hope will help mitigate some of the storm surge. You see it already developing, and there's going to continue to be storm surge both on the west coast and eventually on the east coast of Florida. And we're going to see a significant amount of rainfall on the northern part of the storm. There's already been 116 tornado warnings with 19 confirmed touchdowns throughout the state, 9 flash flood warnings, and 4 additional flood watches, with many, many more to come. Numerous counties have reported tornado damage. Peak storm surge is predicted to be between 5 and 13 feet, depending on where you are on the Gulf Coast of Florida. As of right now, the peak storm surge looks to be between the Charlotte-Lee County line up until Anna Maria Island in Manatee County. Prior to landfall, the state completed nearly 2,000 missions. Generators were sent to shelters. We have massive amounts of fuel reserves that are staged and ready to go, millions of gallons of gas. When the ports reopen, Florida Highway Patrol will be standing by to escort fuel trucks to service stations so that people will have access to fuel as they return to their homes. The Florida Department of Transportation is staged and ready to go as soon as the storm passes. They have 156 bridge inspectors, which will go to clear the bridges, 402 cut and toss personnel, and over 1,000 generators and 350 pieces of heavy equipment and trucks. We have massive amounts of search and rescue equipment and personnel standing by. And we hope that there's not a big need for that, but we're prepared for that. And that's not just our state and local. It's also our National Guard, our State Guard. We have about 9,000 National Guard personnel between Florida and other states. We also have Florida Highway Patrol, Fish and Wildlife, Department of Law Enforcement, and of course our Florida State Guard. There was a lot of questions about pre-staging linemen, which is our practice here in Florida, given that you have a lot of linemen working for Hurricane Helene in places like Georgia and North Carolina. I'm happy to report that we have over 50,000 linemen that are in the state of Florida, and as soon as it's safe to do so, they will commence with power restoration. We're already seeing power outages. You're going to continue to see a lot more power outages over the course of tonight and into tomorrow morning. Now, at this point, it's too dangerous to evacuate safely, so you have to shelter in place and just hunker down. Category 3 storm for most places in Florida, particularly newer construction. Likely the building is going to be able to withstand it. But if you start to get in a situation where trees are snapping, power's popping, you do have to treat it like a tornado. And then if you are in a tornado warning, that's a duck and cover in a place that's safe in your structure. Those can be very, very dangerous, even if you are inside in cover. Stay inside and stay off the roads. Floodwaters and rushing storm surge are very dangerous. And I would say that's even more so in spite of everything the state did to help these local communities hit by Helene remove a lot of debris. And they did move a lot of debris over the last 72 hours. You're going to have new debris created, and you still have some of that old debris in some of those places. So there's going to be hazards in the storm surge and in the flood waters. Stay put until the storm is passed. If you are in Sarasota, Manatee, some of those areas where the eye of the storm is going, it may be where things calm down for a minute. Just understand that means you're in the eye. It's going to go back and get really nasty very soon. So don't go outdoors until it is confirmed safe. You can listen to your local emergency management officials about that one. Power outages are going to happen, as I mentioned. So please, if you're using a generator, make sure that you're using it safely. Do not run the generator inside your home. That can be fatal. Make sure it's outside the home at a safe distance from windows and doorways. If you see dangerous conditions, please report those to your local authorities so that they can help protect people and mitigate it. So the storm is here. It's time for everybody to hunker down. I know we've got massive amounts of resources that have been prepared for this storm. People are tired because of having to deal with Hurricane Helene, and yet all I've seen is people just dig deep inside and say, we're not going to be denied, we're going to get the job done. So I really appreciate everybody that's worked so hard on the heels of Helene to prepare for this storm and to be ready to go. And you will see that in action very shortly as this storm passes. Okay, Kevin Guthrie.
Thank you, Governor, for leading us through this. Appreciate your support. Conditions across the state continue to deteriorate as Hurricane Milton approaches landfall on Florida's. No more Michael. No, sir. No, sir. As Hurricane Milton approaches landfall on Florida's west coast, many areas are already experiencing life-threatening storm surge or life-threatening tornadoes. Please make sure if a tornado warning comes in, especially on our east coast of Florida, we have certainly had a lot of tornadic activity over there with confirmed radar signature, confirmed tornadoes. We do have Virginia Task Force 1, Ohio Task Force 1, and Miami Task Force 1 going into those areas to help with those structural collapses that have happened. We're receiving somewhere in the neighborhood, this is really, really rough numbers right now, but about 125 homes that have been destroyed, most of them mobile homes and senior communities. So we're trying to get into Florida's most vulnerable to make sure they're taken care of. If you have not already left, as I just said, as the governor just said, you need to stay inside, stay safe, and stay put. Make sure that you're getting to a central area of your home, that you're getting as low as you possibly can. That is, if you have a single-story residence and no storm surge, you want to get as low as you possibly can. I had this question asked of me earlier. Do I go to the bottom of the house if I got storm surge? The answer is no. If you've got 2 floors, you need to go to the lowest part of the second floor to escape the storm surge. Please do not. If you have storm surge coming in, please just do not go to the lowest level of your home. Do not attempt to leave your home or drive during the storm. Roads may be flooded, blocked by debris, or have down power lines. Please do not risk it. If you hear, as the governor said, if you hear trees snapping, that means that there is going to be flying debris. You should seek shelter immediately and treat it as if it's a tornado. Protect yourself from flying debris by putting household items such as pillows, heavy coats, blankets on top of you. There may be a point where you think the storm is over. If it goes from absolutely nothing or absolutely horrible and terrible to absolutely nothing, then you are most likely in the eye of the tornado. Please stay in place. Do not come out. We are anticipating power outages, as the governor's already mentioned, with this storm. Take time now, if you still have power, to keep those electronic devices plugged in and keep the charge full. If you lose power and are going to use a generator for backup power, please use it safely. You've heard the governor and myself say this. Keep it 20 feet away from the doors and windows of your home. Make sure you wait 20 minutes for it to cool down before you refuel it. Make sure it's on a clean, dry surface. And then be sure to have a carbon monoxide monitor in your home. After the storm has passed your area, it is critical that you listen to local authorities for guidance on when it is safe to go outside or to return home. Do not venture out. Hazardous materials, debris, and flooding could still be present. Do not attempt to clean up the debris by yourself, especially fallen trees or power lines. If you see a dangerous condition, please report them to your local authorities utilizing your 911 lines or non-emergency lines. Residents needing information can continue to call our State Assistance Information Line, which will be open for most likely weeks. That number is 1-800-342-3557. That's 1-800-342-3557. Please follow the agency on X and Instagram at FLSERT and on Facebook at FDEM. That is the best way to go and catch up on latest up-to-date information from the division. If you do not have access to that, but you have access to the internet, please make sure you go to floridadisaster.org/updates. Floridians, we are with you. We will be with you. The state of Florida is leading the way on this charge. Please know that we're coming as fast as we possibly can. There's going to be places that we just cannot get to until the winds die down. But as I've already mentioned, there are strong winds. There are banding rains. But we have the men and women of Florida Task Force 1 out of Miami-Dade, as well as members from the Ohio and Virginia Task Force going into harm's way to help you out. We will continue to do that all night long. I will be here throughout the night along with my team. Governor, it's been a pleasure working with you to this point, but I also want to say thank you for your leadership. And I know that you're not going to go anywhere anytime soon. And I appreciate your leadership. Thank you, sir.
So we are staged with massive amounts of search and rescue assets, not just with the cities and counties and their considerable resources, all the state assets for our state agencies and National Guard, as well as urban search and rescue teams. And so we will be ready to help people who are in harm's way. And hopefully we don't have a lot. I know a lot of people did heed the call to leave, but that will be a priority to save lives. We also have a record number of people there for the restoration of power, these linemen. People love seeing the linemen coming in on the interstate. It's a great sight. They will get to work, get their power resumed as quick as possible. And then we have massive amounts of fuel on standby that we can use, but we also want to make sure these ports get up and running. I mean, we'll see what the damage is to Manatee and to Tampa. We have been discussing, and Kevin and his team have been discussing with our federal partners like the Army Corps and some of these agencies, some expectations about getting these ports back. And I think there's a difference between kind of Florida expectations, which is like we get this stuff done quick, and maybe how the federal bureaucracies have typically worked. But I think that we have had very good conversations. I think there is a sense of urgency with some of the federal agencies as well, but we want to get these ports back open as quickly as possible. We're going to have to assess some damage. Now, the track of this storm, the fact that it is Sarasota, perhaps the Port of Tampa is not going to take a major hit like it would have if it was a direct impact, but we'll see. Manatee is probably going to be a little bit closer to where it's getting some of the big impact, but we think it's really important that all services are be able to resume, and we have contingencies to be able to get fuel in where it needs to go, but it sure be a lot easier if we just get that coming into the ports. And so those are all going to be priorities from here on out. So if you are watching this, just hunker down. If you're in the path of this storm, it's dangerous outside. There's going to be a lot of hazards. Even when it passes, if there's floodwaters, be very careful about any of that. Help is on the way. We're going to get everyone back, get everyone up on their feet again, and we'll mitigate the damage as best we can.
The president said that he has spoken with you. Have you talked about getting more resources from the federal government here in the state, getting things back open?
So as I mentioned, we've been discussing with some of the federal partners about acceleration of what needs to be done if something needs to be done on these ports. To say like, oh, it's going to be weeks for a port, no, that doesn't work. Okay, we got to get it open. And I think they're of the same mind, and I think that Kevin and our team have had good conversations. We've also, Kevin, I know, is talking, both Kevin and I talk with the FEMA administrator about some of the things that we're looking for. For example, with this debris. Let local governments do the debris a little bit differently so that we incentivize people to come and do it quickly. Because the way it goes now, it was hard to even get people to do their debris. You had them going other ways. It just didn't make economic sense for doing that. And a lot of the debris takes like 6 months to do, and that's just kind of been the standard. I think we showed by surging our resources, which is really unprecedented, we knocked out a lot of debris in like 72 hours. So we want to have a debris where there's incentives to do it and do it quickly. I don't want to have to even talk about this now, but we're not out of hurricane season. There is the possibility of another storm brewing, and that's going to come into the Gulf. It's possible. I hope it doesn't happen. But so we want to be able to have them with contractors and have them have things working with the FEMA reimbursements that makes sense. And I think Kevin, I think Administrator Criswell has been very receptive to that because it does. It just makes sense.
Governor, Director Guthrie, in terms of the timeline of recovery, and last time with Helene, you were able to get search and rescue units kind of out there before, if I remember correctly, before the sun even came up.
That'll happen again. Yes.
Happen again.
So, yeah, they will do in the dark. That is absolutely fine. It's just a question of making sure that it's safe for them to go out. So as soon as that storm passes, and the fact that it came in earlier than thought, that's good for the high tide because the high tide's not here yet. I think it'll help with the surge, but it's going to mean pretty much all the rescues are going to be done in the dark in the middle of the night. But that's fine. They're going to do that. All of our folks are doing that, and they will be on target.
Since you have so many people here in the state, more than previous storms, Are you expecting things to kind of be restored quicker than previous storms? Like Helene was power back within a week. Are we expecting that even sooner, 3 days, 5 days?
Well, we need to figure out how much power is out. I mean, we just don't know, right? And so we'll see. But I thought, we didn't get hit with Dorian, but it was coming, so we prepared. I thought maybe we had reached 50 with Dorian. We didn't. We reached in the 40s. We did 40,000s for Ian in the 40s. This is the first time we've crossed 50, and so I think that that's good. I think there's a lot of people that are excited about going to work. I know Floridians really appreciate these guys when they get out there. And if you look, the fact that it's going Sarasota across, that's heavy Florida Power and Light territory. Those guys are a well-oiled machine at this. They do a really good job. A lot of their infrastructure handles the storms very well. And so a lot of times when you're talking about power restoration, if you have the people there and you go quick, you can potentially reconnect relatively quickly. If the whole thing is blown out where you have to rebuild it, it takes longer. My sense is that if it's a lot of FPL stuff, their infrastructure probably is going to be able to weather a lot of this, so they'll have to do some reconnects, but maybe not a full rebuild. Fort Myers Beach for Hurricane Ian was FPL, and they could have gotten the power back on very quickly. It was too dangerous to hook it up because of the homes with the storm surge, but their substations actually did pretty good. So I think it remains to be seen with that. Now, in terms of the search and rescue personnel, I'd like nothing better than to be here tomorrow night telling you we're sending all of it back to the states. I would love that, to say, you know what, we did whatever we needed to do, just like Helene. And then 24 hours later, it was fine. Thank you. And you guys go back home. We would love to do that. I'm hoping that we're not going to need them to be long, but it's just going to depend on what the damage is. So we'll see. I mean, look, these storms, it's like how many, what population, how many people, how much infrastructure. And this thing has come up. It kind of went east into Sarasota County. I don't know where they're going to say the landfall was. Maybe Venice, from what I'm looking on the radar. Maybe middle Sarasota County. But if it cuts across from there, there's a lot of rural areas. Whereas if it would have gone into Tampa Bay and rode up I-4, that's like millions and millions of people. I do think north of the storm, there's a lot of precipitation. I think you're going to see inland flooding in central Florida, north central Florida. I think you're going to see storm surge in northeast Florida, places like Daytona Beach, Flagler Beach, St. Johns County. I think you will see that coming on the backside of the storm. So we'll see how all that shakes out. But bottom line is we have the resources amassed. We'll use all that we need. But yes, I hope I can just send a bunch of them home to say, we got the job done.
And FHP posted a video earlier today of a dog chained to a fence. They went and rescued it. Do you know what's happening with that dog?
I mean, first of all, what kind of an animal would just leave a dog chained to a pole in the middle of a hurricane? I mean, it's just unbelievable that somebody would do that. And so I'm thankful for the FHP folks out of Tampa for rescuing the dog. They did bring it to the vet. The dog has a clean bill of health. And who knows, maybe we'll do some adoption, put the dog up for adoption, and we can have some people in Florida come and compete for it and take it. But, it's just like, I mean, people do a lot of dumb things, but you just see that. And so I hope they find the person who did it. And that person should have the book thrown at him. We've got very good laws in Florida against animal cruelty. These dogs, we've got dogs that are going to be helping in the storm. These police working dogs, they're great. They're great canines. So we don't have tolerance for that in Florida. I thought it was outrageous that somebody would do that.
Can you talk about the size of the storm and what people should expect from the wind fields, how wide the eye is, or anything like that as it comes on shore?
So it's interesting. I think the storm did deteriorate because of the wind shear. I mean, we were here, 24 hours ago, and it was 180 miles an hour. And no one thought it was going to come ashore at that. But I think a lot of people thought it was going to come ashore as a pretty strong 4. And it ended up coming as basically a mid-level 3. Now, it doesn't mean there's not storm surge. It doesn't mean there's not hazards. There is. It's a serious, serious storm. But in terms of some of the damage that we're going to see from wind, there just is a big difference between 140, 150, and 120. We saw it with Hurricane Ian, which was basically a Category 5. I think it may have landed just a tick below. Of course, we saw it with Hurricane Michael, which was a Category 5. As you get into the 120 range, 115 range, still hazardous, can still do a lot of damage. But Florida buildings in particular, new ones, they're going to be able to withstand that for sure. And so I think that likely, look, I'm cautiously optimistic that with the Florida building code that you can do. Now, the storm surge is a different story, and we've had storms that, Hurricane Michael was not necessarily known for being massive storm surge, even though it was like a tornado and it obliterated so many structures. And then there have been other storms that have been Cat 3 that produced massive storm surge. So I think it's too early to tell on that, but I think the fact that whether it was the shear or whatever happened, the fact that it did weaken before it made landfall is going to be benefit to us compared to what we were looking at 24 hours ago. But regardless of the winds from the storm directly, we've already seen probably more tornado watches than I've ever seen. I was talking to people, do you ever remember? No one remembers ever seeing this many tornado warnings that have been done. So that spun off a lot of tornadoes. And you have them, it's not like, there was Fort Myers, but there was Palm Beach, there was Port St. Lucie. I mean, it was all over the state. So that is a hazard for sure. And I think we're likely to continue to see those throughout tonight.
Governor, on the point of the tornadoes. About the incentives for debris removal crews to get more of them coming in here?
So as the governor said, he and I had a conversation today with Deanne Criswell. She's actually coming in here tonight at some point in time when weather permits to be with us tomorrow. But I will say she said that we were on the right track. She felt like that was a very good idea to get some type of incentive for individuals to come here. Maybe, again, incentivizing people from maybe west of the Mississippi, west of the Ohio River, so we're not competing against people that are in North Carolina. But again, we talked about some potential opportunities there, and she was going to get her some of her senior directors to come in, and one of them, Robert Pesapane, who is actually over that entire program, is actually traveling from D.C. tonight as well to actually sit down and have a conversation with us so that we could all get to a situation where we think the best move forward is, we can take that best move forward. However, as the governor also alluded to, there's I think a parallel path, and that we don't do bureaucracy, we don't go in linear paths, we don't throw all of our eggs in one basket. We are talking about reaching out for Emergency Management Assistance Compact, EMAC, or mutual aid through other states to start bringing in some other DOT-like, public works-like individuals to help us with mutual aid. Again, we don't know what might happen in the next 10 to 15 days. We want to get some of this debris picked up again. We've shown how government sometimes, unfortunately, usually private sector is better than us, but we've shown them that we can get this stuff done and we can get it done quickly if we cut through the bureaucracy. So we're going to look at the incentive-ish program, and we're going to also look at bringing in mutual aid from other states.
Well, I mean, the thing is there could be another storm this season, but the debris, the standard practice with this debris, the way it works, is it takes months and months to do debris. I remember Michael, how long it took to do the debris. Ian, there was debris. And a lot of it is the local governments are worried what FEMA's going to reimburse and this and that. And I'm just thinking to myself, the incentive should be to get it done as quickly as possible. And it's a difficult situation because you have Mexico Beach after Hurricane Michael, they had $90 million of debris cleanup. And I think their annual budget was $5 million. So they obviously need that reimbursement. And I think they got 100%. Oh, yeah, they did, because I went and got it from President Trump, 100% of reimbursement for the first 45 days. But to have the debris for 6 months, a year, or more than that, and I would never think that we would be able to say that government would do better than private. But when we took all our trucks, they're all over the state doing all this stuff at the normal course of business, and we said, okay, this is a hazard. Let's do emergency 24/7. And they were going, and they picked up 3,000 plus loads of debris on Anna Maria Island, on Madeira Beach, all these places. and then brought them to this landfill. As I said, this is a local responsibility. I don't think the state can be in the business of cleaning up everybody's debris. First of all, we just are too big of a state. I mean, there's no way a state government can do that. So this was kind of an extraordinary circumstance, but we also have to look at why is this always a problem? And I think what Kevin is doing, I think, is smart. I think the administrator will work constructively with him, and I think we'll probably get somewhere that's going to be more efficient and more effective.
Governor Logan has bureaucracy. You made the decision to ask the legislature to set aside that money for emergency so that you'd be able to have the state get money and start paying for things in a much quicker fashion. The budget system indicates that so far you've gone through about $250 million, which is about half of what you got. I mean, you guys.
Well, no, we'll be fine. Yeah, I mean, if we exhaust that, I still under emergency, I still can do, and we'll do that. And I would say, this will probably be a 90-10 storm, you think, or
We're going to ask for it.
yeah. So we'll end up asking for 90-10 for a lot of this stuff, and it just takes a while, but we know we'll get it. I mean, we're still getting reimbursements from some of these past storms, so it's just the way it is. But yeah, we're fine. We have what we do, and look, when you deal with these storms, you got to make a decision. We never want to spend money that is not going to be effective, of course. But I think the question is, are you willing to spend money to be prepared? And when you're fully prepared, you will end up not using some of the things that you've amassed. I mean, who knows? Maybe we instead of having 2.4 million restorations like we did with Helene, maybe we'll have less than that with this. We had 30,000 for Helene Lyman, we have 50,000 now. Was that bad that we had? No, it wasn't. We've had other things staged. We had fuel staged for Helene. We didn't have to use any of it. The gas stations were fine. We have fuel staged now. We may need to do it. And so these are things we look at contingencies, what could potentially happen, plan for the contingencies. And when you plan for it, you do got to spend some money to execute these contracts. But if you don't end up having to do it, I would much rather do that than be in a situation where like we have no gas in the state or we don't have enough people to hook up people's power. And it does cost when we do the mutual aid, when we bring in the linemen, the state is responsible for some of those costs. But the way I view it is, if we can get people back, I think we had 2 million restored within 72 hours for Hurricane Helene. That gets everyone back on their feet and the state gets moving again. That pays for itself. If you have power out, the standard used to be people be out of power for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. That is not, I think that's bad. I think that hurts the economy. I think that hurts the quality of life. So that's just how you got to do it. Our view is let's just be prepared. That's why we have the fund. And you're going to be better off being prepared ultimately than if you're not willing to do it.
Search and rescue. I know it's a big emphasis for the state. What happens if 911 goes down, God forbid, or cell towers go down and people can't reach the hotline or 911 to call search and rescue? What should those families and those individuals do?
So the enhanced or next gen 911 system that is in place throughout the country, it's overseen by the Department of Management Services, but at the same time, the mechanics of it is if a county goes down, if a county cannot receive those 911 calls, it's going to roll over to another county. So there is a redundancy that is numerous layers deep that will end up getting that 911 call. When that 911 address pops up on a dispatcher screen, it's actually going to tell them where the home service is at. So it will say, for instance, just say for grins and giggles, it's Punta Gorda. It's answered in Hendry County. It'll show up Punta Gorda. So the people in Hendry County know automatically, okay, I'm actually receiving a call from another area. There's something wrong. They're still going to, all of our dispatchers are trained, our 911 coordinators are trained underneath a Department of Health certificate. So they have all the same standard training throughout the state of Florida. That is a required statute. So they can take that call just as good in Hendry County as they can in, say, Charlotte County. They'll transfer that information. We have redundant systems all across the state. We still have World War II, Cold War era technology that are copper lines that go from every single emergency management agency in this in this state to another emergency management. So that'll come in, they'll get the information, they'll pick up that, hotline, call that next county over and say, this is what's going on, and then people will respond to that.
Well, also, I mean, I think what you've seen in past is there is the redundancy, but then if someone does need to be, I mean, if there's 10 feet of storm surge somewhere, you go rescue, and then they'll, like our boats, like they'll go around and check on people. They'll do all that. So you're going to see a massive effort as soon as it's safe to do so to check in the areas that were the hardest hit by surge if there's anybody in distress, because someone may not be able to call. Now, even if the 911's working, they may not be able to do that. And if you see somebody that's sitting on their roof, someone's going to go and pick them up. I mean, that's just how we roll.
For the tornadoes, Director Guthrie mentioned about 125 structures that were destroyed. Does the state have any confirmed fatalities from those tornadoes?
Not yet. I think that there's some injuries. I don't think we can rule out fatalities, but we don't have any confirmed yet.
Does the state have a number on how many people are in county shelters or those state supplemented shelters?
So I appreciate the question. I did a 5:15 call where we were getting some real-time numbers updated. I'm going to say it's probably close to 100,000. We had a lot of counties that their numbers went up exponentially. Earlier today, we put 31,000 out there. But for instance, Hillsborough reported a couple of maxed out. Pinellas reported a couple of maxed out. But every county that reported something maxed out still said, even though it was a single shelter, still said they had plenty of capacity in their system. So we're nowhere near capacity that we have, which was well over 220,000 beds as of our earlier briefing today. But I would estimate it's probably around 100,000 and maybe growing.
And I think and it makes sense that it grew a lot today, because the storm wasn't expected to hit until tonight. So you don't need to be there. Like a lot of people, why would you be there on a Tuesday night? They just go Wednesday morning. So we anticipated that would happen. We have capacity. I think when you're talking about storm surge on these barrier islands, a lot of those folks have the wherewithal and the means to be able to go somewhere else, hotel, family, friends. And so they're probably not the prime candidates that are going to go to shelter. I think a shelter is a lot of times some of the elderly, some of the people that may not have as much means, and that's there for them. And I think people have utilized it well. Okay, thanks so much.